Man, today is a big day. Not only is it Revival 2021, but it is my wife and I's 12th wedding anniversary today. And so we get to celebrate with all of you here. And we're super excited. For the first time, this is probably bad to admit this, but for the first time we went and celebrated with our kids. It might have been the first time. We might have done it before, but we had a good time celebrating yesterday together and had a good time. And, man, we are excited to be here with you. And today's scripture comes from Ezekiel 37. I felt that there was no better way to start Revival 2021 than in Ezekiel chapter 37. So if you have your Bibles, flip over there with me. And I'm just gonna read some of those words to you. This is an incredible story. I absolutely love this. This is one of my favorites. And just read along with me here. The hand of the Lord was on me, and he brought me out by the Spirit of the Lord and set me in the middle of the valley. Listen, this is Ezekiel speaking. He's got God right there with them, and they're walking along, and he leads them to the middle of the valley. And it was full of bones. He led me back and forth among them, and I saw a great many bones on the floor of the valley, bones that were very dry. So here he is, he's walking along, and he's pacing back and forth with God, and he's showing him this vast valley full of bones, full of death, full of just nothingness. And I love it because it didn't just say that he saw these bones. He had to go on to say these bones were really dry. It wasn't just a bones laying there, but these bones were very dry as they laid there. And for me, that just says that they've been there for a really long time. They've been dead for a really long time. They've been useless for a really long time. But the significance behind the bones is just simply this, is that represents an eternity. Those bones are there even years and years and years after. And here he is looking at these, and he's walking around, and then God asks him this question. He says this, Son of man, this is what God called Ezekiel, Son of man, can these bones live? I'm going to ask you a question today. Has God asked you a question, and you were just like, I do not want to answer this question, because I know what the answer is. I know what's going to happen with this, because Ezekiel wasn't dumb. He knew what was getting ready to happen. God said, Ezekiel, son of man, can these bones live? He's walking with God. God can do anything, and he knows that. How many times has God asked a question into your life that you knew there was getting ready to be something that was going to shift, something that was going to change, something that was going to get revealed, and you were almost too scared to know what it was that God had for you? Well, I'm sure Ezekiel was in this spot, because this is what he said. Ezekiel said, Sovereign Lord, you alone know. He's like playing dumb, because he's like, man, Lord, you know that these things could do whatever you ask them to do. You know what's going to happen. But so many times I even find myself in that place where I just sense the Lord is asking me a question. And it's not just a question like he wants an answer. He's challenging me. He's challenging me to a new place, a new level. And so as he's speaking to me, I get a little nervous, because I'm like, I know where this is going, Lord. I know what you're getting ready to call me to, and this is out of my wheelhouse. You know I get uncomfortable with this, Lord. You know that I'm not okay with this. But though he says, Sovereign Lord, you alone know. And then the Lord said to Ezekiel, prophesy to these bones and say to them, dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. He says, prophesy to these bones, speak life into them. Prophesy means to foretell or to predict, to indicate beforehand, to declare or foretell by or as if by driven inspiration, divine inspiration. This is a big thing here. He's predicting, he's speaking life into this stuff. And God is saying, speak life into these, prophesy into these bones. Prophesy to these bones and say to them, dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. How many times, listen to me, how many times have we been in a place where we're getting ready to speak to a friend, to a family member that does not know God? This is no difference right here. They are dead, and they are waiting for their great awakening. They are waiting for what is getting ready to take place. And all of a sudden, here it is. He says, prophesy to them, tell them. And so here's what they says. Hear the word of the Lord. It's getting ready to happen. Anytime he says that, hear the word of the Lord. Something big is getting ready to take place in your life. And I'm telling you that right now, that if you're in this room, if you're online, online, I promise you, something big is getting ready to take place in your life. You don't need to look at 2021 as a defeat. You don't need to look at it as anything. It's what you make it. And right now, I'm declaring that it's going to be a victory in us today. There's going to be victories taking place. And this is what the sovereign Lord says to these bones. Listen to this. I will make breath, or in some translations, spirit, enter you, and you will come to life. I will attach tendons to you and make flesh come upon you and cover you with skin. I will put breath in you, and you will come to life. Then you will know that I am the Lord. I'm going to give you meaning. I'm going to give you inspiration. I'm going to show you what it's all about. And so Ezekiel, he prophesied as he was commanded. And as he was prophesying, there was a noise, this rattling sound, and the bones came together, bone to bone. Bone to bone. I was thinking about that the other day. I was just having this thought of, man, I wonder what that sounded like. He walked this great valley. It wasn't like he just showed up and there were some bones there in front of him. God walked him along this great valley, and these bones were everywhere. It wasn't just this little rattle that you hear. I believe that it was something special. I believe that was just that noise of revival taking place as they heard that taking place. You know, I believe that was something very special to be able to hear that rattling sounds of the bones coming together, bone to bone. And I looked, Ezekiel looks, and tendons and flesh appeared on them, and the skin covered them, and there was no breath in them. So he starts sharing that. He's like, I prophesy to you that God is going to give you the skin. He's going to give you what you need to walk. And so he's talking that. He's sharing that. And that's what we're called to do. We are called to tell people about what God can do, to share what God can do. And that's what happens is we get into a place where we start to hear it. We start to receive it. We see what God can do through you. We see the way that you live your life through your family, or we see the way that you live your life and how things have changed. And we want that. And so we start to see and we start to put things together. But the unfortunate part is that we're putting that together. Sometimes that breath just isn't there. Sometimes that outwardness is there. Sometimes we look like people all of a sudden. Our dry bones, our dried up self kind of turned into something put together. But then all of a sudden we realize that breath really isn't there. The spirit really isn't there. What we need to declare really isn't there. But in the Bible, the word revival comes from the Hebrew word, haya. And this word means to bring back to life or to restore. I absolutely love that. To bring back to life or to restore. It wasn't to bring to life, to bring back to life. You see, so many times we find ourselves in a place where we were dedicated, we were focused, we were excited about what it was that God had. We were excited about the things that were going on. And then all of a sudden we started to get defeated because the things that we were asking for just weren't coming the way that we wanted them to come. Things were taking place and hard times were coming, and we were getting frustrated, and it just wasn't happening the way that we wanted to happen. We realized that this Christian walk, this holiness lifestyle of walking like Christ sometimes doesn't look exactly the way that we want to live, that it's a whole lot easier just to do and live the way that we feel like living. But here's what he says. He says, prophesy to those bones that all this flesh comes back and I will breathe life. He promises that he is going to breathe life. And I promise you right now that he is going to breathe life into us. I believe it. I believe that no matter where you're at in your life, if you're right now saying, I have a really good relationship with God, that is fine, but he can breathe more life into you. He can bring more spirit into you, and revival can take place no matter where you're at in your walk, no matter how sick you are, no matter how hurt you are, no matter the addictions that are taking place, no matter how many chains you believe are taking and holding you down. I believe that God is going to breathe life into you. He is going to push that, and big things are going to take place, that he has something in store. No matter how dried up you think you are, God still wants you, still calls you, still needs you, still wants you, and is still working through you. Because in verse 9, he says this. Then he said to me, he says to Ezekiel, prophesy to the breath, prophesy to the spirit, prophesy, son of man, and say to it, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Come, breathe from the four winds, breathe into these slain, that they may live. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and breath entered them. They came to life and stood up on their feet, a vast army. They had life. They had purpose. They knew what was getting ready to take place. These things that were dried up bones are now living. They're there. They have life. They breathe. And what I love about it is this, is that God gave them this gift. All of a sudden, these bones that were washed up, dried up, are no longer. And they stood to their feet, a vast army, ready to receive what it is that God has for you. And this is what I believe, is that we have to be ready to move. We have to be ready to do what God is calling us to do. And if that is to go out and if that is to get out and be uncomfortable with things, if that is to get out and do something that you're not okay with, you need to do it. If he is calling you to do it, you need to get up and you need to get ready to do it and receive it. These bones, they could have been excited. Like, hey, I'm back to life. I'm ready to go. I'm going to go see my family I haven't seen. I want to go check out something. But no, they stood to their feet, and they were ready to go whichever direction the Lord called them. Are you ready for that? I believe that to receive the blessings, that we have to stand up and be ready for whatever it is the Lord has for us. In this time of revival, it's all about the new strengthening. Strengthen your relationship. Strengthen what it is that you have. Strengthen that bond. Be ready for what it is that God has in store. Then in verse 11, he said to me, Son of man, these bones are the people of Israel. They say this, our bones are dried up and our hope is gone, and we are cut off now. In a whole different way of speaking, I believe that's a lot of what I heard in 2020. I believe that when the walls came crashing down and things were going wrong, I believe that that's kind of what we felt like. Our bones are dried up and our hope is gone. We're cut off. We're cut off from the rest of the world. We're cut off from our family. How do we do ministry in a time like this? We can't see anybody. We can't minister to anybody. We can't put people in our seats. How are we ever going to do the things that we are called to do? All hope is gone. We are completely cut off. I believe often that we say that we are washed up. We have done what God has called us, or we have messed up so many times that there is no more purpose for us. But I believe that God is constantly calling. He's constantly reviving. He's constantly breathing new life into you. He's constantly giving you purpose. And no matter what it is that's going on, that he will take your dried up mess and he is going to breathe life into it. No matter how messed up you think things are, no matter how messed up you think things are going, he is breathing life into you. And this is what I believe, that if we stand together and receive it, that there is breakthrough getting ready to take place. There is breakthrough happening. And sometimes we get so negative, so caught up in the things that are taking place, that we can't even see past our own opinions. We can't see past our own thoughts. And it's all about what God has in store. If God stands up and says, it's time to fight, are you willing to stand up and say, yes, God, I'm ready to fight? Are you willing to be those bones that stand up and I am ready to receive from you what it is that you have, God? And that is what it's all about. Are you ready for that? So many times I believe that we get ourselves caught in this place where all it is that we are asking for is just for things to take place in our life constantly. God, can you do this for me? God, can you do that for me? God, can you do this for me? Can you make this happen for this person? Can you make this happen? But it's all about that. That's fine. But here's the deal. It's all about this. Standing forward and looking at God and saying, God, I am ready for what it is that you have for me. I am ready to receive it. And when you're obedient in that way and you are ready to receive what it is that God has for you, big things are going to take place. Blessings are going to happen. And those blessings are going to be something that is going to take your family for years and years and years to come. So I love this in verse 12. Therefore prophesy and say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. My people, I am going back to open your graves and bring you from them. He is saying that right now. I want to bring you from that grave. I want to bring life into you, and you're going to be a vast army that's going to be ready to go. I'm going to bring you out of your grave and bring life into you. A revival. I will bring you back to the land of Israel. Then you, my people, will know that I am the Lord. When I open your graves and bring you from them, listen to this. I will put my spirit in you, and you will live, and I will settle in you and in your own land. Then you will know that the Lord has spoken, and I have done it, declares the Lord. Because here's what happens. It takes just one person to break that chain. You look at this, and maybe you're watching online right now, or maybe you're here, and you said, my family's never gone to church. My family has never been one of those. It takes one person to break that chain. It takes one person, and all of a sudden, you accept Christ, and you start living that life, and big things become, because here's what he says. He says, I will put spirit in you, and you will live, and I will settle in you and in your own land. I believe that that's not just here. I believe that that's in your house, that that's in your family members' houses, that this is spreading, that this isn't something that just stays in one spot. This goes. He is going to bless, and he will be there, and people will notice, and people will see it. Are you ready to receive what it is that he has? I'm excited to see what God has. If you would, stand to your feet today because we're excited for this. We're getting ready to close this out. I'm excited because I'm telling you right now that God has a word for us. He has a word for you. He has inspiration, a call, a purpose, and he is ready to give it to you. Are you ready to receive it? I'm ready, church, because I believe that chains are getting ready to break. I believe that darkness is turning into light, that death is turning to life, that defeat is turning to victory, that shame is turning to grace, that things are taking place. I believe today that if you declare it, that God is bringing healing to your body. I believe that no matter what it is that doctors have told you, that God can still work through you. I believe that no matter what the pain is that you're dealing with, that God can still restore that. I believe that God is doing so many big things right now. Are you ready to receive what it is that God has for you in this time? Are you ready to receive the breakthrough that he has? Because we sing those words, your power and your presence is all that I need, because you break those strongholds in my life, because you're the King of heaven. And we sing about the heaven and earth collide, that this thin space between where it's thin and it's here, and we sense that heaven is here. We know that's where we want to live our life, because we know that God is very much here today, that breakthrough is happening, that when he speaks, it's a word. I love this church. It's a word, and I want you to stick on this. It's a word, because when he speaks, mountains move. It's nothing else. It's nothing different. When he speaks, he doesn't need to lay a hand on it and move it. It's a word that he speaks. So I'm going to ask you this, church, right now. This is the way we're closing out today. What is the word that God has laid on your life for this year? Is it breakthrough? Is it joy? Is it happiness? Is it declare? What is it? Is it healing? Is it miracles? What is it that God is working? If you're online right now, I want you to drop that word in the comments. And somebody back in the back that's working the live feed is going to write that on a card for you. And we have a wall here at Movement Church that we're putting those words on, because we're going to pray those words. We're going to pray over those words, because we declare today that breakthrough is taking place. It's starting today. Revival is happening. Are you ready to receive it? Are you ready for what it is that God has for you? If you're here live when we get done today, or even if you want to do it right now, there is cards over there, there's markers. Write that word. What is it that God has given you? It's a word that's going to move those mountains from you. It's a word that's going to tremble those mountains and move those things out of your way. That healing is going to take place, that things are going to happen, because when he speaks,